There are certain things we can say, but if we say them, because it is your world, are you willing to take responsibility for the responses of your population to what we are about to say? And before you answer, think carefully about what that means. Are you willing to take responsibility for what we are about to say? Be sure the answer is yes.
Yes.
All right. This is what we are allowed to say. The female will lead to open contact. Do I need to say more?
No.
Are you willing to take responsibility for the information?
Yes.
The male will lead to the termination of the United States and World War III. End of comment.
And I suppose tagging on to that is the election and what happened today with Biden being elected. How has that impacted the window of comment?
I have already answered that.
So that's essentially part and parcel of the change in leadership.
It is a change in the choices being made that is reflected by the idea of the leadership.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, because the leadership is calling for unity. The leadership is calling for the idea of connectivity and community at this point, which will enhance and increase the probabilities for open contact because it requires the idea of community, connectivity, and those kinds of frequencies and states of being in order to increase the probability of open contact with other communities among the stars.
I see.
And this is why it has come down to the idea of stretching backwards to the year of 2023 as the new beginning of the window of open contact rather than 2025.
Back in 2020, you mentioned the importance of that election and how the result catapulted us to a more positive timeline. With the upcoming election in the fall of 2024, do you perceive the results affecting open contact? I understand your civilization will not talk about our politics. I just want to clarify if the election will affect how and when we meet our ET family.
All right. Now we are allowed to say this about that. Understand we have for some time been talking about the idea of the splitting realities, the splitting prism. For the sake of simplicity, for now, let us take what many of you might call the Dolores Cannon approach and say that instead of thinking about it as an infinite number of parallel reality Earths, you can, shall we say, render it down to the idea of two, the new Earth, the old Earth, that are splitting apart, going in different directions. And the people that shift with them, then going in those different directions. You could say going in the new direction, shifting to the new Earth, going in the old direction, remaining on the old Earth, so to speak. But it's still a shift. So the idea is, look at what's happening in the splits that you are experiencing now in your politics. Specifically, look at the idea of people saying, this person won, no, this person won. Which is true? Both are true because they're both reflective of two completely different Earths. That's how you're starting to see the split. Right now, of course, you're sharing a reality. You're creating a reality that seems like a shared reality. And therefore, you can still see each other saying, no, it's this way, no, it's that way. Eventually, you will not see each other. You will not experience each other. But right now, That should be your first clue. The degree to which each side, each group is saying, no, 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 this is the winner. No, 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 this is the winner, should be your first clue that you're actually experiencing the beginnings of the splitting into different realities. So, those that are moving in the direction of what, again, euphemistically we will refer to as the new earth, will experience one thing. Those that are shifting in the direction of continuing with the old earth will eventually experience something else, even to the point, eventually, literally, of there being 2 White Houses in your country, 2 government bodies in each place on your planet, where one person wins this one and one person wins that one. So you have to start understanding this is different realities that you're actually beginning to experience. Even though it may seem to be very chaotic right now and everyone arguing about what is real, they're both real. But it's just the very beginnings of the splittings into those very different and very real realities that will become farther and farther and farther apart. And the people going in those different directions experiencing very, very different Earths eventually. So, allow yourself to simply stay in the vibration that you prefer, and you will continue to navigate and continue to shift and continue to experience the result of that, one of which will lead to open contact and one of which may not. Now again, anything in between does exist, for there are multiple variations and versions of parallel reality Earths. But again, for simplicity, just to use the extreme examples now to illustrate the point, one will experience the idea of open contact because that means it's about connection and expansion, love, connection, kindness. And the other, based in fear, negativity, will experience something quite different. I'm not going to describe that right now. But they will not experience open contact in the way we've been describing and in the way we will participate in it with you. That is the answer to the question. That is all we are allowed to say. So think about that and understand what you're seeing as the beginnings of that split on your planet.
So the other question has to do with Donald Trump.
Yes.
And what is happening right now, these revelations of his behavior with women and
Yes.
all of that. Why specifically is that aspect of his behavior so dramatically being brought to our attention as a reason not to get involved with him?
Because it's a perfect mirror reflection of how far certain segments of your society will go to deny what they really know to be true.
The fact that he's denying those behaviors no matter how many people...
It shows you how deep the denial is in many factions of your society. Yes.
So, and is that because that's so unpalatable to us that, in other words, it was chosen as the...
How far will you go? What are you willing to accept? How far out of alignment and out of integrity are you willing to go?
And the people who are then aligned with that out of integrity behavior...
Are in for a big surprise.
In what way?
I can't tell you.
Ooh.
But they're in for a big surprise. They will have a challenging lesson to learn. But this is what they're choosing. By remaining in denial, by continuing to support something so far out of alignment with integrity, they're going to run into a wall somewhere. So, you'll see.
One person wanted to know if the shift to the parallel Earth will contain any Republicans.
In the sense that there will be an interim period where it will be more representative of the original republic, then yes. But not in the way that they exist now.
So as the parallel realities get farther and farther apart, will literally you stop seeing at some point the people who are of opposing viewpoints?
Yes, eventually. Many of you have heard us talk about the idea of the species that you know as the Greys, and we have talked about their history as humans on a parallel version of Earth that ultimately destroyed their world, mutated themselves in order to adapt, lost a great deal of ability to experience emotion, to reproduce, and use their advanced technology to tunnel, as it were, into yours and other parallel reality versions of Earth where human DNA was still viable, in order to create hybrid species that would be capable of perpetuating their society so they would not die out. And we have mentioned from time to time that one of the reasons we are sharing insights and information from our evolutionary experiences that we believe can help you in your evolutionary experience in moving forward in a more positive way, that one of the reasons for this is because we have observed that many aspects of your history parallel some of the aspects of their history that allowed them to travel down a very dark and negative path. So there are some attributes of what we have perceived in your society that are similar enough to certain events that happened in their society that forced them down a path where their world completely collapsed and they had to mutate themselves in order to survive. We are attempting to help you avoid that path. Of course, the choice is always up to you. We now wish to address your present political situation. As you have witnessed on your planet, in your own country, and in many other countries on Earth, there is a growing propensity for individuals to be placed in positions of power who wish to retain that power at all costs, who will not necessarily serve the needs of the many, but only the needs of the few, to paraphrase one of your science fiction films. So this is what we have to say, and it is an opportunity for you to make a great shift in the direction of your preference. And we are allowed at this time to speak a little bit more deeply about offering you some suggestions for your political situation as it relates to the window of contact. Primarily because, and this is what's critical, if the situation and the state of being doesn't shift in a more positive direction in your pivotal year of 2020, the window of contact will drastically shrink. And depending upon what happens in the years following that moment, it may even to some degree erase. Now, we have from time to time talked about things that we sense are coming up. One in particular is that we told you that your year of 2016 would be another pivotal point, and that in 2016 everything would change, which I believe most of you will see that it has from what it was before. Not necessarily in the direction that you prefer. So now we would like to reinforce the understanding that if you are willing to make another shift through your actions, you can shift this energy back. But if you don't, the window of contact will be more elusive and more challenging to find. So, again, not telling you what to do, we cannot do that. not forcing you, but suggesting to you that if you are truly interested in experiencing open contact with extraterrestrial civilizations, then we strongly urge you to do everything in your power to make sure that in your upcoming year of 2020 politically, everything in your nation changes in a more positive direction. This is a crucial, pivotal point in your history. The maintenance of negative energy to the degree that it is now being expressed in your country and in other countries around the world will steer you in the downward spiral that was similar to the path of history that allowed the Greys to destroy their version of Earth. This is, and we cannot stress this enough, an absolutely critical and crucial pivot point for many of you. You can do something about it, but you must act. And if you choose not to, then you may find that discussing the very concept of open contact with us will no longer be a viable choice of conversation. Now, I am going to, again, be allowed to put this in what you would call more practical and pragmatic language, even though we believe that most of you sense what we were suggesting. So we will simply say it this way. You must, if you have the ability to do so, vote. Do you hear us? Yes. Do you hear us? Yes. Do you hear us? Yes.